And we're live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Committee on Legislation, Tuesday, May the 4th, 2021. Councilmember Farrelletto,
Here.
Councilmember Golumback,
Here.
Councilmember Nowakowski,
Present.
Councilmember Rivera,
Present.
Councilmember Scanlon,
Present.
Council President Pridgen,
Here.
Councilmember Wingo.
Present.
Quorum is present.
From the top.
Item number 1, local landmark 436 Amherst Street.
Bring up the agenda. Yeah. Motion to table items 1, 2, 3, and 3.
Motion is to table, seconded by Councilmember Nowakowski.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when is the public hearing? Is it at the, for the Amherst Street projects?
Let's see. Can we pull that one back up? Did we need to schedule the public hearing today, or was that? Let's see. When would you like the public hearing to be? I believe it has to be at least it has to be over 10 days out. And we'd have to check with the clerk for the notification. I believe. Is someone from the clerk's office here?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it would have to be a 15-day notice. So June 1st would be the earliest date.
Okay, how's June 1st, Councilmember Golumback?
Yeah, that would be fine. You know, I support this, as do the residents in the area. So I'd like to have it approved as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The motion is to set the public hearing date for June 1st, seconded by Councilmember Golumback, and the item was already seconded, so we'll go on to the next item.
Item number 4, Board of Education resolution on school safe zones and traffic safety.
This item is open. Did the person who filed this want to discuss this item?
Are you referring to me, Councilmember Farrelletto?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who filed it. I can't tell from this screen. Is this your item?
I believe so. If they will pull the screen back up, we can see the item if it's about the school zone resolution from the Board of Education. Yeah. Filed that on behalf of one of the board members at the Board of Education. They, you can take it back down. They literally wanted to ensure that this body was aware that there is a population in the city of Buffalo who does want school zone cameras. This resolution by the schools, by the school board was voted on 7-2. And this was last year when this body actually, began to operate that program. They passed a resolution in support of it. So having said that, I just want to make sure we highlight a couple of the statistics from here. It is the 4th whereas in 10 years from 2008 to 2018, it says 44 people were killed by vehicles while walking or bicycling on Buffalo streets. And then a report conducted by University at Buffalo between 2010 and 2011, children under the age of 18 were disproportionately hit by people driving cars, having been involved in over 1/4, that's 26.5% of all pedestrian and bicycle crashes with motor vehicles, while only accounting for 22.5, almost 23% of the total population. That is disproportionate, Mr. Chair. Then the next whereas says that neighborhoods have faced systemic disinvestment, namely large portions of communities on the east side and west sides of the city. They disproportionately face challenges of income and access, and to the effect that neighborhoods on the east side of Buffalo are home to 17,000. And I believe the point is this: 49% of all school-aged children live on the east side of Buffalo. 49% of all school-aged children live on the east side of Buffalo. 49% of all children live on the east side of Buffalo. 45% of all children, school-aged children that live in families being paid less than poverty level wages, place them at statistically greater risks of being hit by a car while walking or riding a bicycle. And then you have the listing of the automobiles hitting people while walking or cycling within a quarter mile of these schools. Emerson Hospitality School, Public School 302, 20 crashes. Academy School at 18A, Public School 131, 19 crashes. Dr. Antonia Pandoja School of Excellence, Public School 18, 17 crashes. Public School 198, the International Preparatory School, 16 crashes. Hutchinson Central Technical High School, Public School 304, 15 crashes. Whereas the city of Buffalo has also implemented a 15-mile-an-hour school zone around all city schools and has documented in just a small portion of these zones over 10,000 vehicles speed daily, putting students' safety at risk. So they wanted to make sure that we understood that they did their due diligence in looking at the data to try to ensure that we understood the complexity of this issue, to make sure that we knew that they understood the lives that would be at risk. 49% of all school-aged children live on the east side of Buffalo. And Mr. Chair, they asked for the resources of these, the revenues from this program that is so embattled right now to go toward measures that will include high visibility crosswalks, safe bike cycle facilities, well-maintained sidewalks with street design speeds that reflect the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. But they would also like that to be a financial plan put together for the enforcement of these school zones. Now, in this this year's budget, between the bus arm cameras and the school zone cameras, the city of Buffalo stood to make in revenue due to people speeding. $4.8 million was in the revenue, was in the budget. 4.8, 2.5 for the bus arm cameras, and then 2.3 for the school zone cameras. Now, this council is a very smart council. I like to believe that. And I like to believe that we are also considering the fact that we are putting a $5 million hole in the budget. With that $5 million hole that we're putting in the budget, what are we going to do to refill that hole, that void, to ensure that we can put these measures in place? What are we going to do to ensure that we can put speed humps to supplement and augment our efforts to slow drivers down? We've not offered any other solutions. I believe we should keep the cameras on the schools, in the school zones. I believe that we are making a big mistake by asking for these cameras to be taken down. And I also believe that if we only increase the speed limit of the school zones by 5 miles per hour, if we increase the speed zone limit to 20 miles an hour, with the cameras already being on the schools, in effect, people will not get ticketed unless they are driving faster than the citywide speed limit, which is 30 miles an hour. They'll be ticketed at 31 miles an hour, 32 miles an hour. Right now, as it stands, we have seen and read the statistics. We've got the information from the commissioner from Department of Public Parking Enforcement that shows us that the cameras are working. Drivers' behaviors have been changing. People are slowing down. We cannot deny that data. How can we, in good conscience, vote down this program when we see that it's working and is keeping children safer? when all we have to do is increase the speed limit to 20 miles an hour, and no one in the city of Buffalo should be driving faster than 30 miles an hour anyway.
Could you try again?
Theories are my business, guys. But if we increase the speed limit to 20 miles an hour, and the citywide speed limit is already 30 miles an hour, there's no more argument, because no one should be driving faster than 30 miles an hour anyway. And if you get a ticket at 31 miles an hour or more, that means you were speeding in other parts of the city as well before you got to the school zone. So with that said, Mr. Chair, I would hope that we could possibly go into negotiations with administration to ensure that we're not wasting money, and that we can also, when we get to our hearings tomorrow, speak on the fact that we've lost when this council, the majority of this council voted to repeal this program. We can say that we are going to consider negotiating this program to make sure that we keep these measures in place, because the council president is here. He has already testified in front of all of us and in this body that there's no reason why we can't do both. And I emphatically agree with our council president that we can and we should do our very best to do both. And again, we should not throw the baby away with the bathwater. We can see clear, evidence that the program is working, that people are slowing down. With that being said, Mr. Chair, we can receive and file this item because the person who drafted this resolution did not come today, but I wanted to make sure I filed this on their behalf to show that the school district did their due diligence, they did their research to show the reason why this program is in fact needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to receive and file. Is that,
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
sorry.
So what I did say, or my intent was that we can work toward, I would hope that we could work toward something that made sense. Not necessarily that the cameras would stay, but working towards something with the administration that would keep child safety. So
Councilmember Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that I received an email from a student from Buffalo State College. And I know we've already passed the measure to remove the camera, so I'm not going to go to that. But I wanted to add some additional facts so that the public can be well aware, because I know that some people have said that there is just as many people who are in support of the cameras than oppose it. I've not met anyone of those people. I mean, we do have a letter from the school board, which was 2 years ago. But as far as people today that I've met, I've not met them, and I'm not saying others haven't. But the one individual from Buffalo State College, and I want to commend him for doing a fantastic job. And I can't pronounce his name, but his nickname is Olu. And he's from Buffalo State. And he just wanted to send us a summary. And I just wanted to announce that because I appreciate the work and the diligence that went into him putting this together. This is part of his finals report for his I don't know if it's his master's or his bachelor's, but just a quick summary. It said that from the information that he had gathered, number one, vehicle owners living close to speed zone cameras received most citations. The highest rates of unpaid citations exist in Buffalo's low income, high poverty zip codes. More than 20% of the speed camera citations issued to city residents went to the 5 zip codes with the lowest median household incomes. Nearly 30% of the speed camera citations issued to the city residents went to zip codes with a poverty rate above 30%. Over 60% of speed camera citations issued to city residents went to zip codes where more than half of the population is minority. A total of 1,006 speed camera citations erroneously issued by 2 Canisius High School speed cameras when school was not in session, and the city has so far collected $39,650 in fines from those erroneous citations. And the city of Buffalo was forced to cancel 51,838 camera citations because they were mailed after the 14-day mailing deadline. So this is the reason, the primary reason that we've voted to remove those cameras, because we can put speed humps in place And those speed humps will not have a date or time on them. They will be in existence for every single day until they're damaged and we have to replace them. I think those measures are more appropriate, and I thank my colleagues for standing on that, because again, I think when we legislate, we have to begin looking at how do we do so without penalizing the least among us, our poorer residents. We don't want people to just go and violate laws, absolutely not. But speed humps are definitely another option that will do the same thing to slow down traffic in school zones. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And moving forward, items to this will be sent to the Education Committee. At the last council meeting, I mentioned that, but that was after we had already decided to send these to legislation. So unless it's a legislation item, moving forward, we will have these robust conversations about school zone cameras in our Education Committee. Anyone else to speak on this item? And I could only see some faces. So if I don't, just speak up. I think I can see everyone now. So
Motion was to receive and file.
seconded by Council Member Scanlon.
Item 5, Buffalo draft resolution pursuant to EO 203.
It's open.
This item is open and I can't see at the moment who filed this. Whoever filed this, if you would like to speak on it.
Okay, what was the item again? I'm trying to look to see what the item was.
The Attorney General's.
Okay, that I filed that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I just want to, I know I spoke about it during our council meeting, but again, I want to thank Jeff Kelly for his efforts in uncovering this information, because again, I don't believe any of us had received this. It was sent to the mayor. We weren't copied on it. But Letitia James has put forth a response to our filing regarding the reforms for police, and she even said it didn't go far enough, and she put some things in place regarding the comments, and I just want to read a couple of excerpts from what she stated, because again, I think it speaks to the urgency of now. We don't have another shot at the apple. We don't have another bite at the apple to put in real reforms. And again, as I speak to the issues of Mr. Andrew Brown, Dante Wright, the unfortunate shooting death of Micaiah Bryant and Adam Toledo, a 16-year-old and 13-year-old. And in the second issues, those other two shootings, I understand the difficulty in officers making some of those split-second decisions. No one is saying their job is easy. But when we look at the issue regarding Mr. Andrew Brown, in which the judge decided not to release the body cam video, that should concern us. When we think about the shooting of Dante Wright, in which he was the officer mistaken her gun for a taser, those are real issues. And we cannot go and turn a blind eye to recognizing those issues as it relates to policing. We just recently, during our claims committee meeting, there is an individual who cost the city $4.5 million by not following police policy, following police protocol. 4.5 million. This individual recently cost us, not recently, because many of these claims are backdated or from past and they've been negotiated, cost us another $20,000. This individual has been involved in 4 different issues costing the city money. And this individual is still on the police force. That's not a good situation. And those are the things that I'm glad 50A came about, so that we can start beginning to see where the patterns are. I don't think an officer, if he makes a mistake or she makes a mistake, should be fired from their job, but it depends on the circumstance. But that's why I'm pushing for, and I think the Attorney General talked about the Civilian Review Board. It's critically important. In the situation where we just talked about the officer who cost us the 4.5 million, there was other internal affairs investigations. They were found without any issue. Again, our Attorney General has said from her mouth, from her lips, the police should not be policing the police. I'm going to stand by that. I think if we're talking about any real reform, it must have a civilian review component. It cannot go the same as what's been going on. I remember putting a request to get the internal affairs data from the police department, and it took months to get that data. We have to expedite how we investigate and how these things move forward. It should not be 2, 3, 4 years that we wait for information. I know the other thing that I'm going to be standing for and supporting is evaluations. I think that possibly if these individuals had evaluations regularly, speaking to the issues in which they've caused the taxpayers money, maybe these things could be averted. But when there's a pattern of behavior where the city is continuing to pay out in claims for officers not being responsive or officers violating the police policy and the law, they should no longer be police officers. I know Corporation Counsel Tim Ball was speaking and talking about the challenges they have in disciplining officers because of the police union. Well, I'm hopeful that, again, we take advantage of the timing of today and we address those issues today. Because again, we support good policing. There's not one of us that don't support good policing. We know that these officers have a difficult job, and I support them doing their job to the level of the law and not to their own discretion. Because again, as we talked about, there's a couple of issues regarding claims. Again, there are officers who are doing things who are costing the city taxpayer, and they're still on the force. And then when there's an issue and they know that they may have to deal with it, they can retire and not have to come up with the responses to the investigations. So these are really the things that I think the Attorney General surmised in her document to us. And I'm hopeful that Corporation Counsel is going to be providing us a framework to put forth a civilian review board and not force the advocates to come forth with a referendum. Because I think with a referendum, then it's probably out of our hands and it's in their hands. And I think that we can come up with a compromise, a better compromise than what we came up with when we submitted a report to the governor that really didn't make much change. It was some change, but not the change that the advocates have been asking for. And again, I think that we've heard long and hard from advocates from this community about the very, very important nature of having a civilian review board, and that should have been on the table. I know recently the mayor has said he's open to that. I'm listening to his words. Open to that doesn't necessarily mean he agrees with it, because I know in our previous, when I provided the resolution, he came right out and said he did not support it. So again, you know, he's maybe rethinking it. Hopefully he is, because again, I think there's an urgency of now. We cannot continue to go about and not allowing these things not to be addressed when we have the opportunity, while we have the political will. I know the federal government is looking forward to pushing forth the George Floyd police reform bill, and I'm hopeful that will be successful, but we shouldn't have to wait for that to happen for us to put forth in motion real reforms that impact the residents of the city of Buffalo. Again, I hope my colleagues, I'm appealing to their sense of decency, their sense of honor, to again, put something in place that is meaningful as the advocates have asked. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on this item? Council Member Wingo.
All right. I heard my colleague say that we don't have another bite at the apple. We do, and we're going to continue to bite at the apple. We've been doing very substantive work on the council to try to influence the police reform here in the city of Buffalo. And just to lay it out, Carrie L's law, the duty to intervene. That was us. The no-knock search warrants, we put the pressure, that was us. The public database for police stop reports, the body cameras, the right to know law, the availability of mental health professionals to the police department. I personally wanted to make sure that we had those type services, thank you, in on our force. The public availability of police labor contracts. And we even proposed the aforementioned citizen review board. You know, we can talk to each other until we blow in the face, but I think who we need to be directing these comments to is the police union. How many conversations have we had with the police union? That is where we need to start. We want officers to live in the city of Buffalo their entire term. If you work for the city of Buffalo, if you are policing in the city of Buffalo, you ought to live in the city of Buffalo. So we need to have our conversations and start having more conversations, if we haven't had any yet, with the public, with the Buffalo Police Benevolent Association. That's who needs to be at the table. That's who we need to be talking to. That's who's to blame for all of these officers getting rehired or getting their job back after they've been fired or disciplined. The union is who is defending these people. Every officer is not bad. I think we know that. Every officer is not bad. We have a lot of great police officers. But we need to start these discussions with the Police Benevolent Association because they're the ones who hold the power of the negotiation of the CBA. That's where we need to start. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think anyone can hear you,
Joe,
Mr. Chair.
you're on mute.
Since no one else is here to speak, since no one else is speaking on this item, we should either receive and file or table this item. What would the filer like to do?
Can we table it, sir? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Motion to table.
seconded by Council President Pridgen.
Item number 6, AMR response to request for data.
Motion to table.
Motion is to table, seconded by Councilmember Golumback.
Item number 7, communication on police reform.
Items open.
This item is open. I'm not sure who this was filed by. Councilmember Wyatt.
Of course, it was me, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to make these comments very brief. The AG also spoke in her write-up about the lack of having community input. And again, I refer to Albany, who had 65 community meetings when they submitted their proposal, a 166-page document. I think that would have been the right thing to do. I know we were in the attempts to try to have some public hearings on this. Some would say they already had them, but again, the public would say otherwise. I'm hopeful that because the AG has put something out, that there will be a forum for the community to speak on this item. I was hoping that this would be an opportunity for them to speak on this item because they didn't get a chance to speak before. I know our committee meetings have been long, but I believe the Oversight Committee is going to have a public meeting on the 6th, which I plan to participate in. But I think that the public deserves to have that forum. This is too serious of a situation for us not to give them as much input as possible. And that information, that conversation was very short and lacking, and the AG recognized that. So again, I'm hopeful that there can be some additional conversation in the very near future that we can kind of sponsor and support to hear from folks as it relates to police reform. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this item received and are we receiving and filing this?
We can receive and file this item, sir.
Okay,
Motion to receive and file.
seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Item 8, Larry Scott school speed zone letter.
Items open.
This item is open. Is Larry Scott here?
I don't believe he's here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, did anyone want to speak on this item?
Well, I didn't have to because I've basically said everything that was in the resolution that they submitted. But this letter Mr. Scott had drafted, wrote, was an open letter to the mayor of the city of Buffalo and to the mayors of the common council appealing to us to not get rid of the school zone camera. We can table this because I'm not sure if he wanted to come back and speak to this at a later date, or you can, send this to the education committee.
We will send it right to education committee. That's a great suggestion.
Seconded.
All right, motion to send to Education Committee, seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Golumback.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is out of line, but where exactly are we right now with the vote that we had several weeks ago with the cameras? The only information that I've really received is what I've seen in the newspaper, that there's a discussion or debate going back and forth between the council and the mayor about whether we properly passed the item, what was it, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? I forget the exact time frame. Maybe that's a question for Karen Gordon from the law department.
Yeah, I know it was delivered, from what I saw, I mean, it was delivered to the mayor on April 23rd, and he has 10 days to act on it. I don't know, Karen Gordon, do you have any answers to the question from Councilmember Golumback?
Assistant Corporation Counsel Karen Gordon. No, I don't have any additional information. What I have is the same thing that you have, the date it was sent to the mayor, and the fact that we're still waiting on a response, either a signage or something from the mayor's office.
Thank you. Councilmember Noakowski?
I'm not, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Golumback.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I guess the point that I want to make is this, that, there's been a lot of misinformation that has flown around on what people's positions were. And, I've had people very upset with me and very supportive of me because I allegedly support the school cameras. In theory, I do support some sort of an action in front of the schools to curb the speeding. I think that the cameras, as they were unfolded last year, have been a fiasco. And we have worked with the administration to try to tweak as much as we could. I think that once again, we made a mistake last month when we voted by a 6-3 margin to approve this without sending the item to committee, because there are a lot of questions that people have, at least that I have, that were never answered in the entirety. Are we opening ourselves up to be sued? Are we actually going to be able to cancel this program in September or August or whenever it was? If it's such a bad program, why aren't we stopping it immediately? Why are we waiting for several months? There's a whole bunch of questions that I had that never were answered. And, I wish we would have sent it to committee. And furthermore, I think that had we sent it to committee, if the same 6 people or more would have been supportive, we could have then approved it. And then there wouldn't have been this back and forth going on between the council and the mayor. And I think that we could have slowed things down by 2 weeks. I think that we made a mistake, the council in general, for not slowing things down and not allowing these questions to be answered. And it seems to be a recurring theme with this council that we rush sometimes, or at the last minute, we try to slow things down. And it doesn't seem like there's an end game. And quite frankly, it doesn't seem like there's a game plan. I want to fix this camera issue. I want to fix the camera issue based on statistics. I'm so thankful that Council Member Wingo brought up the actual statistics. And so did some of my other colleagues, the statistics, anecdotal evidence as well. I have had probably an equal number of people contacting the office in support of the cameras as opposed to the cameras who live in my district. And the people that live in my district, it's pretty evenly split. Among the people that are opposed to the cameras, a good chunk of them said if they weren't on all day, if they were tweaked, if they were fixed. They don't necessarily believe that the entire idea of the cameras are bad, but they think that, having them on from 8 until 4 or whatever time the schools are in session, has been a mistake. And, I've worked with the administration to try to tweak things in my district, and I think that that's what we should have been doing all along. Instead of making, a drastic decision 2-3 weeks ago, and doing it without having all the evidence in front of us. And, now it's in some sort of a, legal limbo, I suppose. Nobody really knows whether it was approved properly or not, because we did have the 6 votes, but we didn't have the mayor's signing off on it. So I would just like to recommend, as we head into the budget season, that, we take a look at what our end game is and what our game plan is, and, not shoot from the hip constantly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman, I think you make a great point specifically about the times. This school zone program has been in effect for over 1 year, and there's literally not a single place where you could find what time the cameras are on. Nowhere on the city website, nowhere, anywhere. It doesn't say what time the cameras are on. If you drive in the school zones, it doesn't say what time the cameras are on. So when you're saying a lot of your constituents support them, but they don't like how they're on all day now, if someone drives by one, it's very reasonable for them to think that it's on all day, because the beacon's flashing all day, the sign says school zone 7 to 4, when in reality, the cameras are only on for a certain amount of time, but we don't know that because the information is not available on the city website. The information is not printed, or it's not printed as far as I know anywhere. And there's no signs that even say that. So I certainly agree with you about the confusion with that. I know Councilmember Nowakowski had his hand up. Councilmember Nowakowski and Councilmember Wingo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to Corporation Counsel Karen Gordon. Ms. Gordon, is there a time frame that we could get by the end of this week we can reach a final determination if this body needs to vote again, and in what manner we can vote? Because I do not believe any of the members that serve on the Buffalo Common Council will be changing their votes. And this has turned into a tug of war that I think that a majority of members are not interested in. So if we need to move forward and vote again to move on, I think that's the will of this body. And if you can get us something to reach a final determination, I think that a majority of the members would appreciate it.
Assistant Corporation Counsel Karen Gordon, are you asking me whether I believe it would be within the council's best interest to redo the process?
Yes.
Again, is that your question?
Yes. What's your opinion?
My opinion would be the same thing that I stated several weeks ago, that after reading the statute, that I believe both the mayor and the common council had to sign, that that as we have done it in the past, the mayor usually sign first and send it to the common council, so that when we sign it, when the common council says it is passed for immediate passage, it does go into effect immediately, because it already has a signature of the mayor, which is what is required. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we have already sent it to the mayor. The mayor is supposed to decide what he's going to do, sign it or not sign it, and send it back to us. We can wait for that time period, if it hasn't already gone, for him to send it back, or we can probably have a conversation with the admin, with the mayor's office, and say, we are going to just do it over again. And by that, I would mean we can take the item. We already have the item. We can take the item and or refile the item and then just send it to committee, and do the process the way we usually do it, which is, have the mayor sign it for immediate passage. We send it into committee, or even if we don't do that, we can simply send it into committee, air it on the floor for anyone in the public to have a say on it. Make a vote on it and send it to the mayor. The mayor can then decide to vote to approve it, and then send it back to the common council. So that option was always there, and that's my initial proposal that I gave 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that would be the same thing I would say now. But at the end of the day, as I always say, it will be the final determination of the common council which way it wants to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, as a follow-up to that, I know it was sent to the mayor on April 23rd. So statutorily, when does he have to make a decision by? When does the 10 days run?
Right. So the 10 days would run from the time that the mayor would have received it. The situation here, what we have, I think is so 10 days from the 23rd will be what? The 2nd or the 3rd of May, right? Something like that. And so by then he would have to either send it back to the common council, or say that he's not signing it, or something to the extent. The situation that we're in right now is one where if there is really a procedural error, then the question would be, does the mayor even have to sign it at all, given that it was a procedural error? If there's a procedural error, then there's a procedural error. The process was not properly followed. And so the end result becomes the same, no signature or nothing, right? Because it's a procedural error. So I think that is the bigger issue, whether or not there was a procedural error, whether or not the Common Council wants to accept that there was a procedural error. And if the Common Council does not want to accept that it was a procedural error, then we wait to see what the mayor does. He has 10 days from the time that it was actually given to him. And the day that it was passed and the day that it was given to him is 2 different dates. So we would have to find it from the clerk office. Did you take it to him on the 23rd of April? That would be the next question to be asked. And if they did, then I think around May 2nd or May 3rd would be the day that it should be returned.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wingo, then Councilmember Wyatt.
All right, thank you. Again, if we just looked at the actual ordinance from the city of Buffalo, it literally reads verbatim, unless the mayor and the Common Council by a 2/3 vote of the members certify the necessity for its immediate passage, a proposed ordinance shall be referred prior to its passage to an appropriate committee of the Common Council. That is what the ordinance says. I just read it verbatim. Therefore, because no one certified the necessity, because the council and the mayor did not certify its necessity for its immediate passage, this should have gone to committee, because there are questions that I have that have not been answered. So I don't know how we could get that wrong. It's right here in black and white. Thank you, Mr.
Councilmember Wyatt.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question because I know Ms. Gordon spoke as to the validity of the 10 days. The 10 days does not start when it passes, I believe, and I think the clerk can chime in on this as well. I believe it's 10 days from when it's taken down to the mayor, because I think people are confused in the public that it's 10 days from when we pass, as opposed to the 10 days when he receives it.
That's correct. It's the 10 days starts from the day of presentment, when it's actually presented to the mayor office or to the mayor.
And can we have that date, Madam Clerk? What is that date?
Couldn't hear you, Councilmember.
I just want to know if the clerk can tell us the date that it was given to the mayor.
Hello. It was sent down to the mayor April 21st, Wednesday, April 21st. And it's always delivered in procedural to his actual office where his staff signs off from receiving the items. And that's when it was taken down. So you are correct. It's 10 days from that actual time it was selected. Not to cause any more confusion to the public in this regards, but there is also an executive order, from my understanding, that was out on the table from Governor Cuomo until May 6th. And Karen, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that, because in all fairness to the council and the mayor, we have not received any items in regards, not just this item, but other council items that from the previous, I don't have it on hand, but several other council meeting items that we have sent down to the mayor's office. So it's not that it's just a speed camera, and I don't want to say that it's being debated on the legal ramifications, or is it just being held because of the tolling period in that regard? So I don't think it's a lot of issues that could be surrounding this actual item, but I just want to speak on procedural process in regards to how items are sent down to the mayor.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilmember.
Is the clerk saying that there are other items the mayor has that he hasn't sent back up to us in 10 days yet?
Yes, Councilmember, that's correct.
Okay, so he hasn't responded to other items as well that we've sent down within that 10-day window, or is it just something that needs to be signed for immediate passage has the 10-day window? Is that everything that has to be signed within 10 days?
Yes, correct. That's everything that has to be signed within 10 days, not the immediate passage.
Thank you, Mr.
Council President Pridgen.
Thank you, sir. So I think I have a couple of suggestions in this. Number one, this is about interpretation of the law. Before I go into that, this was an ordinance amendment, not an ordinance. And what I was informed in Assistant Corporation Counsel, when it's an ordinance amendment, is it the same path?
Is what the same path, council member?
As if this were just a brand new ordinance.
It doesn't matter whether it's an amendment or brand new, which means that everything from it is entirely new. The process is still the same.
So thank you.
What if it's a local, is there a difference between an ordinance amendment and a local law?
Yes, a local law has to be sent to the Secretary of State, and we also have to have been given the authority through or from Albany to actually make some of the amendments or changes depending on the nature of the local law. But usually local laws are always sent to the Secretary of State. That's an extra step that we have to take, along with an extra public hearing that has to occur in the mayor office, which we don't do for our ordinance amendment.
Okay, so I think what is before us is not simply just about this ordinance amendment, but it is about procedure. And part of our job, if there is a difference in procedure, is to define exactly what the law is saying. And I think that by not finding out, regardless of whether there's another ordinance amendment that is placed, I think this council needs an interpretation, as does the administration. Because the administration says something is blue, it doesn't mean that it's blue simply because it came out of the administration. At the end of the day, councils and administration have differed on interpretation of procedures, probably since the beginning of having separate arms of government. But I don't believe that it means that, and before anybody comes back and say, that's not what they said, I'm saying it for me. I don't believe that this council should just fold based on several attorneys who have given us an interpretation, the administration who has given, and our own corporation counsel who has given us interpretation. And there is, I believe, and it has been said, ambiguity. So where there's ambiguity, I want to make sure, so regardless of what happens with this ordinance or not, I will file a resolution to ask to really dig deeper. Quite honestly, we found the charter from 1943, in which it only had the A part, which basically says so this goes all the way back to where every proposed ordinance, unless the council by a 2/3 vote of its members elected, certifies a necessity. So the certification can begin with the mayor, or it can, and in this one, it was council. It was added later, as I explained in the last meeting where I spoke on this, when I talked to Council President Pitts, former Council President Pitts, of the reason that was changed is so that the council basically could begin that process of ensuring that if they wanted to begin the process, that they could. And the mayor has the option not to certify for immediate passage. That's one portion. He has the option to not certify for immediate passage. So as much as as much as I'm tired of kicking this around, and this person said this, and it's like, who do you give more weight to? But what we don't have is even the legal community agreeing at this point of what is the interpretation of that law. And I believe if we don't get an interpretation, I don't mean the interpretation that either side wants. I really believe that we need an interpretation from a judge, but I don't want to hold up the vote of the majority, supermajority of this council. And if you'll notice in our budget book, when we talk about a shortfall next year, the budget book for school zone cameras has a grand total in it of revenue of 0. So when we talk about the budget coming up, removing the school zone cameras does nothing at all to the budget because it says zero. And so if the sponsor's desire is to file another item, what I would do then is propose to this council, because if we need to do this in the future, I feel that this council made the right move, and because the administration says they don't feel it is, the administration does not run this council. And at the end of the day, if we got advice and we had several lawyers who had several different interpretations, that's not a fight to me. I think it becomes a fight when we won't just go get the clarity, like file an item, file whatever we have to file. Let me ask Corporation Counsel, how would, and I know this is catchy, and if you don't have this answer, it's fine, you can give it to us later. If a majority of this council wanted clarification on that portion of, and not just legal advice, but a decision, so that moving forward, if this council had to do this again, that we're not doing the same thing and just going back and forth.
Yeah, council member, I don't know, I don't have at hand now what the process would be for you to get that, because I'm assuming that you're talking about to go to court to get the judge to make a determination as to the interpretation of the law. Is that what you're asking?
Well, if that's the way we have to do, because at the end of the day, if this council voted and felt that the advice that was offered to us by different attorneys, that it is, if this council feels it's right and it folds and simply says, oh no, well, the administration says it's wrong, so it must be wrong, every interpretation of the law from then on, we would be going by what somebody says in a press release. And at the end of the day, like I said, the research that we did clarified what we felt was right from those who sponsored the legislation to change that portion so that the council kept the council empowered to do a 2/3, kept the mayor empowered. But at the end of the day, I think going night-night on it just puts us in the corner of, oh, we can't do that again because it was in the paper that it wasn't the right thing. Well, just because somebody says it doesn't mean, or else other attorneys wouldn't have a job. They go into court to argue something to get clarification. I think this council needs clarification. We could talk offline because I think for me, I've taken up enough time on this. And if the sponsor of this resolution wants to refile it in the morning, refile it, do whatever, because at the end of the day, in the budget book, there's a zero revenue anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a good point, because I know there were times where I have been on the council where we get an interpretation from the administration or someone from Corporation Counsel, we rely on it, and then that is litigated on. Sometimes the city has won those lawsuits, sometimes the city has lost those lawsuits. So it's definitely, we've seen it happen both ways on things that we voted on and relied on, and nothing against that. I wasn't talking about you, Corporation Counsel Karen, just in like the 6 years I was on the council, even other departments and things like that, we rely on things and they're litigated and some people interpret things differently. So I think that was a good point. Did anyone else want to speak on this item? Councilmember Wingo.
Yes, real quick. Corporation Counsel, is there an official position from Corporation Counsel as the attorneys, the actual people who can represent us in court, the folks who are commissioned with defending the interests of this city? Has Corporation Counsel come up with a position on whether the mayor is correct or the council is correct?
Assistant Corporation Counsel Karen Gordon. Corporation Counsel, the Office of the Corporation Counsel has come up with an interpretation in their legal opinion that the language under the charter suggests that both signatures need to be present, that it is a signature of the mayor and the common council. And that's, I guess, and that's just it. Nothing addition as to who is right or wrong. That's just the interpretation of the office based on the reading of the statute.
Okay, and to the point of the zero balance in the budget book for the revenue, That is I want the people to understand. That is anticipated revenue. The anticipated revenue is zero because we passed, the majority of this council passed an ordinance amendment to be sent to the mayor's office to get rid of that program. Why would there be revenue in the budget book if there was no program to generate that revenue? However, on the same note, you have to consider the fact that now that $2 million from the speed zone cameras is gone, number one. Number two, the revenue from the bus arm cameras, that revenue is gone. That's $4.8 million that is gone. Now, where else in the budget will we compensate for that? That means to have to go somewhere else. You have to have revenue lines up with expenses. That is basic accounting principles when you want to balance a budget book. If the money has been taken from here, the anticipated revenue, it has to have been taken from somewhere else. We have not given the city of Buffalo any recommendations as to how we're going to make up that $4.8 million revenue that is not in the budget anymore.
I'm just going to add, before the council president, a lot of the concerns that I've heard about the school zone cameras were people saying it was a money grab and money related. I think if this body is talking about, or certain council members, loss of revenue, I think that's what drives a lot of people of the public to be very upset and frustrated because they don't think this should be viewed as a revenue source. So I just want to make it clear, I don't think it should be viewed as a revenue source. I think it should be about safety. And I think conversations about what are we going to do with money we're not going to get could be talked about in the budget, but I can tell you, I do not think that it should be considered a permanent revenue source at all in any capacity. Council President Pridgeon?
Just for clarification, we don't have to take money from another place. The mayor has presented his budget, which means he has also presented his revenue sources and his anticipated revenue and his anticipated expenses. So this is not because zero shows for the CAMs that we had to take it out of another place. When he did his budget, with revenue sources. And for whatever reason that they chose not to put in a revenue source for the cameras, me personally, I'm thrilled about it, but it's not a borrow from. Now, if you're talking about this current, I'm going to address the chair, if the conversation is about the current budget, it was those type of items that I was talking about. We may need to have some conversation so that we are, we are not later got to come back and in some way penalize people. So at the end of the day, the current budget, there is no revenue, which means that the administration has already decided how or what other revenues will be coming in to meet their budget numbers, because their budget has to be balanced when they present it to us. So right now, the budget is balanced of what the administration is sending for the upcoming budget.
Council Member Wingo.
Mr. Chair, I would just like if it could be clarified what borrowing. I'm lost at what Council President, you were saying when you spoke about borrowing. I mean, when it comes to the budget, you made the comment about what we're going to borrow related to the future revenue. I heard you say it. That's what you said. And I'm really just interested in knowing, what expenses do you think were taken out because that revenue is now gone?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'll wait.
I'm good.
You may have not heard it correctly, but I don't even know anything about borrowing when we're talking about the budget. What I was saying was, and I'll try to go through it very slowly, but what I was saying was, when the mayor presents his budget, if I said borrowing or sounded like budget, it has to be balanced. So it is not, or when I said, if I said borrowing, it is not borrowing like going out to the market. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that it's not coming from another line, or it could be, but he's not saying that he's going to get $2 million in speed cam. That's all the point is. We can pick for the I and the T if you want, but at the end of the day, there's zero in the budget for speed zone cameras, and there's revenue sources there right now. So whether that means that procedurally we did it right, or whether that means that the administration knows that there are 6 votes right now to take down the cameras. And I agree. The question was, why not take them down right now? Well, the reason that the camera, that it wasn't, and the sponsor could say if I'm wrong, was because we wanted to give time so that the infrastructure could be put into place. And so at the end of the day, my point was really just giving an overview of the budget, and it wasn't meant of bowing outside, because that's not a part of what the budget process is. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I got a lot of hands coming up. I think Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm listening back and forth, and we can go on forever arguing this. Obviously, I would like some decision, official decision from our corporation counsel. They say it's an interpretation. I would like an official decision. And then secondly, if we do decide to refile this item, because we're going to be arguing back and forth, the votes are there, move this item along. It was 6-3. I don't think anybody has changed their minds. We've listened to the public now for a while on both sides of the issues. It's been a year now that we've seen this roll out. I would like at some point to have some kind of determination whether this procedural thing, because I don't want to set a precedent or give any power that the council may have to the administration. I'm not trying to take something that they have. I just want a decision. We're setting a precedent here. I'm scared to set a precedent where we're giving up some power, procedural power that the council may have. And if we don't, fine. There has to be some determination. How we come to that determination is the question that law department, I don't know how you can come up with the determination. Right now, you have interpretation. The law department has officially come out and said, absolutely, this is it. So we have an interpretation. The council would like to move this. I would like to move this along. As council president said, it's zero in the budget. It's not in the budget. So we're arguing back and forth on the merits of this. It's not in the budget. It's not going to happen. There's 6 votes right now. And I don't know if there'll be any more or there'll be any change, but we have to move this along. I don't know how long this is going to take in reaching some kind of determination, and we need to move this along. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nowakowski.
Thanks. I'll be brief. I'll just, piggyback off of the majority leader. I agree. If we need to, go to a judge for a final determination to accept by this body, I think that that's what we should do. Interpretation is everything. I interpreted zero in this budget as a new revenue line, as an admission that the council acted within its purview. And if we need clarification, we'll keep moving forward. But this seems to just be a tug of war that's not going to end.
All right, anyone else on this item? Councilmember Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not inclined to put forth another resolution. I believe if we've put this forth in earnest, we put it responsibly. We heard from the public, so we don't need any additional conversation because we heard loud and clear from the residents. And I believe if this is an issue, if the clock is ticking, the administration has a responsibility to notify the vendor within 60 days. If they violate that and they end up being sued, it's on them. But at the end of the day, if this does not move forward, there's always the court system. And that's, I think, the ultimate measure. And if that's where it needs to go, then that's where it needs to go. But it also stresses, again, the importance of us having our own attorney. This is in direct conflict of what the mayor wants to do. He has his corporation counsel telling him something, he tells us something else. That's why we need our own representative to relate and respect our wishes and our goals to make sure we have clear vision in when we make our decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Council Member Scanlon.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just listening to this argument and I have to take, I have to address that last comment to make it seem as though our corporation counsel, who's working directly for us, is not providing us advice that is in our best interest, that she believes is the letter of the law, which is what it sounded like to me, that she's taking marching orders and not doing her job is extremely insulting. And I couldn't sit here and listen to that.
Mr. Chair,
Council Member White, and then we're
just
going to try to wrap
for
this up,
clarity,
move on
it
to the
wasn't
next-
relating to our corporation counsel, Karen Gordon. It was referring to the corporation counsel appointed by the mayor, who again appoints his appointee to represent what he would like to do. And there's a question there, and that's my comment. Okay, thank you.
Council Member Scanlon.
No, it was stated very clearly, the person that is relaying legal advice to us. And that is our direct corporation counsel. And that's the person I deal with. That's the person I rely on for the legal advice for the Buffalo Common Council. And that was insinuated that that is coming downhill to her and she is not operating in an ethical manner or anything like that. And I could not sit here and listen to that.
Council Member Wingo.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Real quick. First of all, that does not mean we need a new our own attorney. An attorney is an individual who can represent us in court, of which, of course, if we hire someone, they cannot represent us in court. Karen Gordon can represent us in court. She is our corporation counsel since the beginning of this city in 1907. We have had corporation counsel to represent both the executive branch, the comptrollers, and the judicial, the legislative branch. We have corporation counsel to protect us, the interests of this city. Karen Gordon can give us her legal opinion that will represent the opinion of the city. If we should retain our own attorney, we are hiring somebody to be biased for us. It's the whole point. He's hiring someone to be biased for us. We're hiring someone to say what we want the law to say. We're hiring someone to interpret the law, to get the spirit of the law to be on our side. That's what we're doing. When you keep saying we want our own attorney, no. We want a policy advisor. And if we really want a policy advisor, say we want a policy advisor and not an attorney. The policy advisor is only going to do that, advise on policy. And we have 12 staff doing that right now already. So the need for an attorney is a moot point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I do not see any other hands, so we are moving to the next item. So we will we'll receive and file this item.
Motion to receive and file.
Seconded by Council President Pridgen.
Item 10, special use permit 1223 Lovejoy.
Motion to table items 10 and 11.
Seconded by Council Member Golumback.
Item 12, special use permit 494 Franklin.
Motion to table.
Seconded by Council Member Nowakowski.
That's, did you say item 12?
Yes.
Then motion to table items 12 and 13.
Seconded by Council Member Nowakowski.
Item 14, zoning map amendment for Marilla, Hopkins, Buffalo Railroad, South Tift Neg Deck.
Motion to send without recommendations items 14 and 15.
Seconded by Council Member Scanlon.
Item 16, food store license 2756 Bailey Ave.
Motion to table.
Motion is to table, seconded by Council Member Golumback.
Item 17, special use 28 Memorial for Public Assembly.
Motion to send without recommendation.
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman, I need that tabled.
Oh, excuse me, motion to table.
I want to just state for the record that I have been working with C District, and they have told me that before this was even passed, the applicant was having parties that required police assistance, which is causing me apprehension because of the problems that it's posing now in the current structure without even being approved, let alone operating to any of the conditions that I stated to them previously. So I'll keep this tabled until this is worked out. Thank you.
Motion stands to table.
Seconded by Councilmember Scanlon.
Item 18, special use permit 2381 Fillmore for self-storage facility.
Motion to approve.
Seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Item 19, food store license 432 East Ferry.
Motion to table items 19 and 20.
Seconded by Councilmember Scanlon.
Take from the table items 23, 24, 25, 36, and 46.
Seconded by Council President Pridgen.
Item 23, special use permit 144 Cottage Street for non-owner occupied short-term rental in N2R zone.
Items open.
This item is open. I don't see it on the agenda. If we can just go down to page 3 on the agenda. This is for an applicant for a non-owner occupied Airbnb in the Fillmore district. Is anyone here to speak on 144 Cottage Street? And we do have a 3-minute limit per item.
Yes, I'm Nicole Patel. I'm here to talk about it.
Hey, Nicole, you have the floor.
All right. I just have it's a 2-bedroom apartment there. It's a lower unit. We have it just right now, well, it's just a regular apartment. We just want to bring in others from outside and have them explore the city. It's a great location, and we're just looking for just, Airbnbers.
All right, thank you. This is in the Fillmore district, and I see Councilmember Noakowski is raising his hand. You have the floor, Councilman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did speak to a few people that live on Cottage Street and around Days Park, and I think I'm going to table this just so if the applicant can please call my office at 851-4138. My staff already knows, so that we could set up just a meeting with those that reached out to my office when they saw this application on online, so we can mitigate any concerns at that meeting. And then, I'm sure that I'll have the chairman's ability to be able to discharge this if we need to in the meantime, so it doesn't slow it up. But I'll feel more comfortable if I just reach out and have that meeting with some of the folks that reached out to my office, so that you can mitigate any concerns and that we can kind of iron this out so we can all get on the same page and move forward.
We have phone numbers 851-4138.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion is to table. Is that it? Okay. Motion to table, seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Mr. Chair, it was a public hearing.
Motion. Okay, did we open the public hearing?
Motion to revisit item 23.
Seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded by Councilmember Noakowski. Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Motion to table.
Seconded by Council President Pridgen.
Item 24, special use permit 318 Ferry West for tobacco sales in N2C zone.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded by Councilmember Scanlon. This is a public hearing for 318 West Ferry. Is anyone here to speak on this item? Since I don't see anyone, I think we'll close the public hearing and go to the council member.
Motion to close the public hearing. You can send this one without recommendation.
Okay, motion to close public hearing, seconded by Council Member Scanlon. Motion to send without rec, seconded by Council Member Golumback.
Item 25, special use permit 637 Tift for storage yard in DC zone.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded by Council Member Scanlon. Who is anyone here to speak on this item? 637 Tift.
Yeah, I'm here to speak on it. My name's Jim Bucky. I'm with Metallico. And what we'd like to do is close our South Park Lackawanna recycling facility and move it over to a facility, Skyway Auto, at 637 Tift Street. We would construct a 4,000 square foot building, put in a horseshoe shaped driveway, put in a truck car scale, and also pave the area. And the building is going to be 50 by 80 foot. We're going to have outside storage for scrap steel and inside storage for non-ferrous. What that does, it allows us to give up our rental of the property in Lackawanna, bring us 5 to 7 jobs over to our South Skyway facility, where we have abundance of property, and we'll probably eat up an acre of land. That's what our goal is.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Scanlon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've spoken to Mr. Bucky in the past, and I know I do have an email from a couple of days ago to respond to him. We're going to meet out at the site, so if we can send this without recommendation to next week's full council meeting, and we'll straighten everything out this week before the meeting.
Okay,
Motion
great.
to close Public hearing.
Seconded by Councilmember Scanlon,
Motion to send without recommendation.
seconded by Councilmember Golumback.
Item 36, Genesee Gateway Historic District.
Items open. Oh, this is a public hearing as well.
Okay, motion to open public hearing, seconded by Councilmember Golumback.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if anyone is here on this item.
Is anyone here to speak on this item, Genesee Gateway Historic District?
So we were contacted, Mr. Chair, by one of the businesses who was not in favor. We have reached out to him. We have referred him to preservation with some of his questions. So I'm okay with this going without rec. And then if we do hear from him, then we'll recommit it.
Okay,
Motion to close the public hearing.
seconded by Council President Pridgen,
Motion to send without recommendation.
seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
No further items. Motion to adjourn.
Item 46, 2020 food store license renewals.
Motion to receive and file.
Seconded by Councilmember Golumback,
Motion to adjourn.
seconded by Councilmember Scanlon.